of travel, because we can speak now to Michael Mann, Professor of Atmospheric Science at Penn State University and author of The New Climate War. Professor Mann, thank you very much indeed for sparing the time to speak to us here on BBC News. You get a sense there from the few words in that news flash that the G20 leaders are perhaps coalescing around some kind of language over certainly the 1.5 degree global warming limit. Do you get a feeling from what you're hearing at the moment that the G20 is moving far and fast enough towards getting real progress in Glasgow, or is there just is the mountain just too high at the moment to climb?
Thanks. It's good to be with you. The mountain isn't too high to climb, but we're not yet there. We haven't yet made it to the peak and over the mountain to the other side, where we need to ramp down those carbon emissions by 50% within the next decade. And so right now, we're not on a course to do that and to keep warming below that catastrophic 1.5 degrees Celsius level. But there is some reason for cautious optimism that at the G20, we do see this coalescence on that target, on that 1.5 degrees Celsius target, which implies in turn that the countries of the world collectively have to bring carbon emissions down by 50% within this decade. Now, we've seen commitments going into Glasgow from the United States, from the EU, from the UK, to bring carbon emissions down by that amount. What we haven't yet seen, and I think that's alluded to in this discussion at the G20, is the action on the ground necessary to fulfill those commitments. We sometimes call this the implementation gap. It's the gap between the words that policymakers are using and the actions. In the case of the US, the UK, EU, we're still seeing, for example, the funding of new oil and gas pipelines, and that's inconsistent with bringing carbon emissions down as rapidly as we have to. So we still have to work out the nitty-gritty, and that's hopefully what we will see at COP26, is actionable agreements to not just talk the talk, but to walk the walk, to actually take the steps necessary to bring those emissions down and to do that rapidly.
You talk about how the US and the EU have submitted their emissions targets, but as you're of course well aware, the nationally determined contributions, as they're known, those emission reduction targets, they haven't been submitted by some of the key emitters, China, India, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. Some other key emitters like Australia and Brazil have submitted them, but without the ability to halve emissions by 2030, as you point out. If there is a real shortfall in these emissions reduction targets, how could the aim of capping global warming at 1.5 degrees remain alive?
Yeah, well, no question. We need commitments from these other countries. And Saudi Arabia is a petrostate, and they've played an adverse role, really, in these proceedings now for decades. And so, to some extent, we need to bring pressure upon some of the bad actors. Australia, under the Morrison government, the current coalition government, has not taken the sort of meaningful action that we would like to see from Australia. China is a different matter. Of course, they are the world's largest emitter, but they are an economy that is still industrializing. And so it is absolutely critical that we make sure that China will not double down in their investment on coal and fossil fuels. There is some good news here. The fact that the Biden administration is taking a leadership position on climate, which we didn't have under the previous administration, that's brought China to the negotiating table. They've agreed, for example, to no longer fund overseas coal projects. That's an important step in the right direction. And so, yes, we do need to keep those negotiations going. We do need meaningful commitments from China, and I think those will be coming. When the United States engages, as they did under the Obama administration, China has come to the table and made real commitments, and I expect that to happen here as well.
Professor Michael Mann from Penn State University, thank you very much.